guys, so I just wanted to do a quick video on how I get started with my builds, and this is something that I wish I had done earlier on, and this is something a little bit more for the beginners, that it's a quality of life thing. So admittedly, the first time you're going to do a build, it might be a little bit difficult to do planning because you have no what you're doing. So hopefully this will help for that. So I've got my instruction booklet in front of me, and then I also have two highlighters here. Sometimes I use one, sometimes I use two, sometimes I don't even use either one, but I don't know what's it, so I've got two next to me. I've got a pen there also if need be, but I hardly ever make that level of notes. So basically what I want to do is I want to break down my build into sections, right? So for me, I've already built a few World War II planes, so I know generally the process is I want to start with the cockpit. You can see there, that's cockpit, and then the two fuselage halves go together. So for me, that's the second part of the build. So the cockpit will be part number one, and then that is what I want to focus on today, and then the fuselage and the wings, and that will be the next part. So I know I'm going to start with the cockpit, so I'm not going to worry too much at what's happening after that, because I'm probably going to forget anyways when I get there. So first thing I want to do is I want to decide which marking I'm doing. So I've already decided that I'm going to go for marking A, which is the one I've also done previously. So what you're going to do is you're going to look throughout your instructions, and with the Mia especially, they're going to clearly mark where a part is applicable to a certain marking only. And the first thing I see here, for example, this is a good example here. So they're saying for marking A, you're going to use part A29 here, right? Zoop, there it goes in. For B and C, okay, it also is part A29, but if you look here a little bit to the left, it shows here for markings B and C, you have to cut off that one part, right? So this is a very important step. So if I choose marking A, I want to leave that on, right? For marking B and C, I want to cut that piece off here, right? So I don't want to get confused with my different markings. So what I'm going to do first of all is I want to go through each step. I'm just going to highlight what's relevant to me, right? Okay, so here, for example, this refers to B and C. So it says for B and C, I need to cut off that part there, right? I need to remove that. So that's not applicable for me. So I'm not going to highlight that because I don't need to pay attention to that. Over here, I know, again, I'm doing here part A. So they don't give specific instructions here, part A. So maybe here I can write do not cut part off. So this just makes life easier for me because I am clumsy. I will 100% accidentally cut the part off that doesn't have to be cut off. So I go here again. If I choose marking A, I'm gonna do part A17 here, versus if I do B and C, I'm gonna do G10, right? So yeah, again, that's what I need to do for marking A. I'm not paying too much attention to what exactly I need to do. I just mark the marking A every single time because I know that's what I need to look at. Okay, just to make sure I don't make any stupid error, right? Okay, so that's the first thing I do, quick and easy. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for efficiencies, right? So what I mean by that is I'm looking for things like what's going to be my starting color, what's going to be the first color I put down after my primer, And that for me usually is going to be the color that appears the most here. Right? So if I look around here, I see a lot of XF71, XF71, XF71. There's more XF71, XF71. So this seems to be the most common color here. And if I look at the front, I see XF71 is cockpit green, which I know is going to be the bulk of my cockpit. So that's probably going to be my color that I'm going to want to start off with. And then everything else I'm going to do over that. I can mask over that or whatever. But everything else is most likely going to be detail painting. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. The second thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to see if there's anything where I might maybe want to delay gluing a part into place until I've painted it. So what I mean by that is, if I'm going to make an example, if I look at this part here, right, which is A18. So you'll see that little tabby on the left needs to be painted X18, which is going to be, it's probably a black, yeah, semi-gloss black, right? So I'm going to ask myself, will I be able to paint that semi-gloss black once it's been glued into place? Right? So for me, I think it will be okay, but for someone who's a beginner might struggle to paint that without going over the lines and painting the fuselage, the inside of the cockpit instead. Right? So for me, I will glue that in place. For someone else, they might want to paint this separately. Same with this part here. Maybe I want to just first keep it aside and paint it before I glue it in. Me personally, I'm just going to do it once I've glued in, but it might take a little bit more focus, right? So there's a lot of dials and things that might just be a little bit easier to paint separately, but then again it also might not be, because you're dealing with small parts and you might lose it. So I was just making examples there. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's how I'm going to do it. I'm most likely going to just glue everything in place. I think for me, things like the yoke somewhere, I think it's on the next page, I sometimes knock these type of things off, so maybe I'll leave that for later. I'm not too sure at the moment. So I'm going to spend some time going through this and deciding what I'm going to glue in place and what not. Here's a good example: seats. The seat might be something you don't want to glue in place first. Reason being, this little cushion at the back, XF64, that's probably red brown if I can remember correctly. That's going to be difficult to mask off and paint with the airbrush once it's glued in. So something like that I'm gonna want to paint separately, then glue in afterwards. So yeah, that's how I start my builds. A little bit of planning goes a long way. It just helps eliminate some frustrations and some common avoidable mistakes. So yeah, let's get started.